Welcome to Hollywood Graveyard, where we set out to remember and celebrate the lives of those who lived to entertain us by visiting their final resting places. Today we head back to Hillside Memorial Park to find such stars as Peggy Lipton, Larry King, Rhonda Fleming, a cenotaph to Tony Curtis, and many more. Join us, won't you? Carrying over the spirit of the revisit from our last video, today we're heading back to Hillside Memorial Park in Culver City. Hillside is a Jewish cemetery founded in 1941. We first toured this cemetery in a pair of videos way back in 2017, when gas was less than $3 a gallon, and Hollywood Graveyard's banner looked like this. Here we found quite a few legends, like Al Jolson, Jack Benny, Michael Landon, Shelley Winters, and Leonard Nimoy. But like every cemetery we've ever been to, there's always more to discover, more stories to unearth beneath the gravestones. So we're back again today to visit some stars we missed the first time around, and others we've lost since. Let's begin today up the hill in the mausoleum and courtyard areas. This southern courtyard is Courts of the Book. Heading in we find the Wall of Jacob and the Crypt of Billy Sands. He was a character actor known particularly for his roles in television comedies in the 50s to the 70s. He was Private Dino Paparelli in over 100 episodes of The Phil Silvers Show, and followed this up with an equally impressive run as Tinkerbell on McHale's Navy. He'd make appearances in other shows like The Jeffersons and The Odd Couple, and appear in movies like Rocky. Billy died from lung cancer at age 73. With the sequel series of Night Court premiering this year, I've been enjoying going back and watching the original series, which features a very funny lady, Selma Diamond. Her best known role was as bailiff Selma Hacker in some 36 episodes of Night Court.
He took Skippy up on the roof.
What?
He said he was gonna set him free.
Hey man, turkeys don't fly.
I knew there was something I wanted to tell him.
Selma actually began her career as a comedy writer, writing for radio and television shows with the likes of Milton Berle and Sid Caesar. A female comedy writer in a man's world, Selma was the inspiration for the Sally Rogers character on The Dick Van Dyke Show. She would be nominated for 2 Emmys for writing on Sid Caesar's show and for her role as Selma on Night Court. Selma died of cancer at age 64 shortly after season 2 of Night Court. Her death was acknowledged on the show. Way up at the top of this same column is actor and funny man Sandy Barron. He began his career as a stand-up comedian before landing roles on stage and in television. He had a co-starring role in the 60s sitcom Hey Landlord, and would make appearances in shows like Love American Style and Starsky and Hutch. And you fans of Seinfeld will recognize Sandy as Jack Klumpus, who loves his pen that writes upside down.
Take the pen.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
I couldn't.
Come on, take the pen.
I can't take it.
Do me a personal favor.
No, I'm not
take
comfortable.
The pen.
I cannot take it.
Take the pen.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Take the pen.
Sandy's film appearances include in Broadway Danny Rose, Leprechaun 2, and he would replace Al Lewis as Grandpa in the Munsters' Scary Little Christmas. He died from emphysema at age 64. Let's make our way up now to the second level. Ah, drat, the elevator's out of order. Well, maybe that's the universe's way of saying, son, you need some exercise, so take the stairs. And here is Shelley Berman. Shelley was a familiar face on television from the 50s all the way into the 2000s. He'd make both comedic and dramatic appearances in shows like Peter Gunn, The Twilight Zone, Bewitched, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Chips, Night Court, LA Law, Friends, Boston Legal, and many, many more. He's perhaps best remembered today for his role as Nat David, Larry David's father on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Berman was also a successful stand-up comedian, winning a Grammy for one of his comedy albums, the very first awarded in the spoken comedy category. And Shelley Berman's films include Meet the Fockers and The Holiday. He passed away from complications of Alzheimer's at age 92. Back down to the main level, let's head into the mausoleum now. In the Columbarium of Graciousness is the niche of Ben Blue. He began his career as a dance instructor before he moved into moving pictures, headlining his own series of comedy shorts for Warner Brothers in the early 30s. Feature films would follow, like the 1937 film Artists and Models alongside his neighbor here in the mausoleum, Jack Benny, and the big broadcast of 1938 alongside W.C. Fields. He also played the biplane pilot on It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Ben would appear on television as well, on shows like Accidental Family and The Magical World of Disney. He lived to be 73. The courtyard north of here is the Garden of Solomon. Here, just off the sidewalk, is the OG cool girl, Peggy Lipton. She shot to fame on the 60s and 70s crime drama, The Mod Squad, as flower child Julie Barnes in more than 100 episodes. Peggy would be nominated for 4 Emmys and win a Golden Globe for her role on The Mod Squad. She would go on to find fame in the Twin Peaks universe as Norma Jennings, and her films include The Postman and A Dog's Purpose. Peggy was diagnosed with cancer in 2004, passing away from the disease years later at the age of 72. She was the mother of actress Rashida Jones. It's an open secret in the entertainment world that not all music stars actually write their own songs. No, many of your favorite songs performed by your favorite artists were likely written by someone you've never heard of. And these behind-the-scenes songwriters hardly get the glory of their creations that the performers do. Jerry Leiber was half of songwriting duo Leiber and Stoller, with Jerry being the lyricist in the partnership. The duo penned numerous hits you would recognize. They wrote songs for Elvis Presley, like Jailhouse Rock.
Everybody in old cell block was dancing to the Jailhouse Rock.
The Big Mama Thornton hit, Hound Dog.
You ain't nothing but a hound. Been snooping around my door.
Several of the Coasters hits, including Yakety Yak.
You ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
And the Benny King classic, which also inspired the title of a film, Stand By Me.
So darling, stand by me. Oh, stand.
Leiber and Stoller wrote over 70 chart hits and were inducted into the Songwriters and Rock and Roll Halls of Fame. His epitaph, "If that's all there is, then let's keep dancing," is a lyric from another of his hit songs, Is That All There Is?
If that's all there is, then let's keep dancing.
Jerry Leiber died from cardiopulmonary failure at age 78. Let's circle around to the garden areas at the southern end of the cemetery. First up is Laurel Gardens. Just before the Wall of Crypts is a name familiar to you fans of the original Press Your Luck, Peter Tomarken. His first game show hosting gig was for the 80s show Hitman, before landing the show for which he would be best known. Peter hosted Press Your Luck between 1983 and 1986 in close to 800 episodes, trying to help players steer clear of that pesky whammy. Come on, big bucks, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy.
Stop at a whammy. This is Peter Tomarken saying so long for Press Your Luck. Bye-bye.
Peter dabbled in acting as well, appearing in shows like Ally McBeal and in films like Heaven Can Wait. Peter Tomarken was a private pilot who volunteered for a non-profit that provided free air transportation to needy medical patients. On March 13, 2006, he and his wife were en route to San Diego to pick up a cancer patient when their plane crashed off of Santa Monica. Both were killed in the crash. Peter was 63. Along the southern border are the Laurel Garden Crypts. Here we find Howard Morris. He's remembered as both a television director and actor. He would direct episodes of some of the great television comedies in the 60s and 70s, including The Andy Griffith Show and The Dick Van Dyke Show. Howard would appear in front of the camera as well in episodes of Your Show of Shows, The Twilight Zone, and perhaps most notably, on The Andy Griffith Show, as referenced right here on his marker.
Ernest T. Bass, you come in here.
Howdy do to you and you. It's me, it's Ernest T.
But Howard worked most prolifically as a voice actor, lending his vocal talents to countless animated and voiceover productions. You heard him in The Flintstones and The Jetsons. He voiced Gopher in several Winnie the Pooh films, Mayor McCheese and the Hamburglar in McDonaldland, Jughead Jones on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Flem on Cow and Chicken, and Wade on Garfield and Friends. Howard Morris died from heart failure at age 85. A little farther west in this same Laurel Garden is the grave of Sammy Lerner. He was a Romanian-born songwriter who began his career writing songs for vaudeville acts and the Ziegfeld Follies. He'd go on to write music for motion pictures, most notably with the Fleischer Brothers Animation Studio. He would co-write the Betty Boop theme song, Don't Take My Boop Boop A Doop Away, and the theme for another iconic character, seen right here on his marker. Do you recognize this spinach-eating sailor man? Sammy wrote the iconic theme song, I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
I'm strong to the finish, 'cause I eats me spinach. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
Samuel Lerner died from cancer at age 86. The next section west is Acacia Garden. Here lies Rhonda Fleming. She was one of Hollywood's queens of Technicolor, becoming one of the most glamorous stars of the 40s and 50s. Rhonda rose to prominence in films like Spellbound and Out of the Past, and dazzled audiences with her flaming red hair, green eyes, and porcelain skin, as well as her singing voice in her first Technicolor musical appearance in A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, alongside Bing Crosby. She'd followed this up with a successful comedy, The Great Lover, alongside Bob Hope. In the 50s, she'd become known for historical epics like Queen of Babylon, Gunfight at OK Corral, and Serpent of the Nile as Cleopatra. Rhonda also continued to sing throughout her life, including in a quartet with Jane Russell. She lived to be 97. Let's say a quick hello to Milton Berle, who we visited in our previous tour here. Hello, Mr. Berle. Then head around the corner to the columbarium and find the niche of Louis Nye. He was another of television's great comedic performers, often seen on Steve Allen's Tonight Show in the 50s, and The Merv Griffin Show and Mike Douglas Show in the 60s and 70s. As an actor, he also made numerous appearances on shows like Inspector Gadget, The Beverly Hillbillies, The Love Boat, and Curb Your Enthusiasm as Jeff Green's dad. And you fans of the Munsters will remember him as Zombo. Louis never slowed down, performing into his 90s before passing away in 2005 at age 92. As of filming, his marker is still temporary. Our journey takes us now to the western end of the cemetery, the Garden of Memories. First up here is the Court of Honor, wherein we find the grave of another of Hollywood's great songwriters and producers of classical musicals, Arthur Freed. In the 20s, he was a frequent collaborator as a lyricist with composer Ignacio Herb Brown, who we visited in our last video. The two penned songs for early musicals like The Broadway Melody and Hollywood Review of 1929, which debuted their song Singin' in the Rain, for which Freed wrote the lyrics.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain.
Arthur Freed was an associate producer on The Wizard of Oz in 1939, and after the success of that film, Freed would be hired to head up MGM's musical department, overseeing the production of many of the great musical films to come out of that studio in the 40s and 50s. These films include Babes in Arms, Meet Me in St. Louis, Showboat, and Singin' in the Rain, based on their earlier song. He would win 2 Oscars for the films Gigi and An American in Paris. In 1972, Freed was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. 1 year later, he passed away from a heart attack at age 78. The next courtyard north is Court of Devotion. Along the southern wall, we find the crypt of Saul Lesser. He was a film producer with over 100 credits to his name. His career began in the silent era, including a number of films with child star Jackie Coogan, like Oliver Twist. Come the talkies, Lesser became known for producing more than a dozen of the Tarzan films between the 30s and the 60s. Saul lived to be 90. Just across the street from the Court of Devotion is the Valley of Remembrance. Just off the central wall is Monty Hall. He was a familiar face to television audiences in the 60s to the 80s as co-creator and host of the various incarnations of the game show Let's Make a Deal. He hosted more than 4,000 episodes of Let's Make a Deal, the show known for audience members dressing in outrageous costumes to increase their chances of being chosen to make a deal with the host and win money or prizes. Monty Hall's name would be linked to a probability puzzle dubbed the Monty Hall Problem, which relates to the probability of choosing a prize behind door number 1, 2, or 3, similar to the kind of challenge players faced on Let's Make a Deal. Monty Hall lived to be 96. Let's double back to the east, all the way to the court of the matriarchs on the other side of the cemetery. In our previous tour, you'll recall our visit to Tony Martin and Sid Charisse. At that time, the crypt had only a temporary marker for Tony. Since that time, this permanent marker has been placed. Tony Martin was a singer and actor whose career spanned some 7 decades. He had a number of hits in the 50s, known particularly for his anglicized versions of European songs like La Vie en Rose and O Sole Mio, aka There's No Tomorrow.
There's no tomorrow when love is new.
Tony ranked among the great crooners of this era, and like many of his peers, took his talents to the screen as well. His earliest appearances on film were in the 1930s, and in the decades that followed, he'd perform in numerous musicals like Ziegfeld Girl and Till the Clouds Roll By. By the late 50s, Tony was the highest paid performer in Las Vegas. He continued performing into his 90s, living to be 98. He rests here alongside his wife of 60 years, dancer and actress Sid Charisse. A few corridors in on the left, we find the crypt of Sammy Shore. He was a stand-up comedian, performing comedy as an opening act for numerous greats like Elvis Presley and Barbra Streisand. In the 1970s, he opened the legendary West Hollywood comedy club, The Comedy Store. The club would help launch the careers of countless comedy legends like David Letterman, Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams, and more. Sammy would make us laugh on the screen as well, appearing in shows like The Munsters and films like History of the World Part 1. Sammy was the father of another funny man, Pauly Shore. He lived to be 92. Let's get a little more exercise by taking the stairs up to the second level. Just before the gardens, we find the crypt of legendary radio and television broadcaster Larry King. For more than 2 decades, he hosted Larry King Live on CNN in over 6,000 shows, and later hosted Larry King Now on Hulu. He would interview notable figures from all walks of life, from presidents and world leaders to entertainers, spiritual leaders, sports figures, and even a Muppet or two.
It's time to get things started with the Muppets here tonight. Joining us are the Muppet leader, Kermit the Frog,
thank you
and
very
his
much.
beloved Miss Piggy, and they are dressed appropriately.
That's right.
You both wore braces in my honor.
It's estimated that he conducted some 50,000 interviews over the course of his career. Larry King would be honored with 2 Peabody Awards, an Emmy, and numerous other accolades for his work, including being inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame in 1989. Larry would also make numerous appearances as himself in film and television shows, like Ghostbusters and 30 Rock. In January 2021, Larry King was hospitalized with COVID-19. He died from sepsis days later as a complication at the age of 87. As of filming, his marker is still temporary. Let's proceed east into the Garden of Leah. Here we find the grave of Connie Sawyer. Known as the Clown Princess of Comedy, Connie was one of the longest living entertainers in Hollywood history. She began performing as a child and by the 20s was entertaining in nightclubs, vaudeville theaters, and on the Broadway stage. Her film debut was in 1959, playing Miss Wexler in A Hole in the Head. Over the next 5 decades, she'd appear in more than 150 film and television programs, including memorable appearances in the films Pineapple Express, Dumb and Dumber, and When Harry Met Sally. In her later years, Connie was known as the oldest working actress in Hollywood. She lived an astounding 105 years. Her memoir was hilariously titled, I Never Wanted to Be a Star, and I Wasn't. And finally, we make our way around to the west to Sunset Slope. Here we find a cenotaph to Tony Curtis. Tony is buried at Palm Memorial Park in Las Vegas, but recently this memorial marker has been placed here for him with his family. Tony Curtis was an actor whose career spanned 6 decades. He was one of the big screen's leading men in the 50s and 60s. In 1959, he'd be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in The Defiant Ones. That same year, he'd co-star alongside Marilyn Monroe and Jack Lemmon in the hilarious Some Like It Hot, performing much of the film dressed as a woman.
It is so drafty. They must be catching cold all the time, huh?
Will you quit stalling? We're gonna miss the train.
I feel naked. I feel like everybody's staring at me.
With those legs, are you crazy? Now, come on.
Continuing to show his range, the following year he played Antoninus in Spartacus. On television, he had a co-starring role in the 70s series The Persuaders and a recurring role on Vegas. Tony was married to Janet Leigh, and they are the parents of Academy Award-winning actress Jamie Lee Curtis. After passing away from cardiac arrest in 2010 at age 85, Tony Curtis was laid to rest in Las Vegas. This cenotaph was later placed here with his family, and we here in Los Angeles now have somewhere close by where we can come and remember him. And that concludes our tour. What are some of your favorite memories of the stars we visited today? Share them in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more famous grave tours. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Have you ever wanted to learn to speak Italian? Well, how about a quick lesson right here at the tomb of Michael Landon? Caro Angelo Michael Landon, come ho promesso, sono venuta dall'Italia, precisamente da Milano, per dire una preghiera sulla tomba di ringraziamento per l'aiuto che mi dai ogni giorno. Grazie ancora, Silvana. Dear Angel Michael Landon, as I promised, I came from Italy, specifically from Milan, to say a prayer of thanks at your tomb for the help you give me every day. Thank you again, Silvana. And thank you, Silvana, for the beautiful gesture.